Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 166. Today, we're going to talk about how do you know if your vocal cords are damaged. Many of us have been there and done that, and or kind of victimized by our own, maybe our illness or whatever, and had damaged vocal cords. Have you ever had damaged vocal cords? Let me know in the comment section below the video here. Just let me know yes or no. I've had damaged vocal cords. I will say that I've had damaged vocal cords. So what we want to do today is talk about what are some of the things that, what's some of the damage. So what damage is of, present in singers a lot, and let's talk about how it happens. And I'll tell you my story, and then we can talk about what to do about it. And anyway, so I want to say hello to you if you just joined, and let me see here. Okay. First of all, I guess we have to make sure that I'm actually live and that you're hearing me okay. So it looks like the live stream connection is excellent, and that I am speaking. Can you hear me all right? Just give me a heads up also that you can hear everything okay. All right. So now, when I was, let me see, how long ago was this? I would say probably about 10 years ago now, probably around 2010. I was playing the role of in HMS Pinafore as Captain Cochran, and it's a blast of a show. It's one of the Gilbert and Sullivan shows, and we just had a lot of fun. I loved the experience. It's the only operetta I've been in, and just really had a great time. I got really sick, and great. Thanks, Vance, for letting me know. Audio is okay. Thank you. Nice to have you guys here today. Codex Music is here. Vance Edwards Music is here. So thanks for joining, guys. Or gals, not sure about Codex. Anyway, I got sick. I got the worst sore throat I'd had like forever. And my throat was so raw that I could expectorate blood. And just the back of my throat was just raw. And it was a viral infection. It wasn't bacterial or strep. I could have gotten medication for that. The viral infections, you just have to sleep them off and sweat them out, and I haven't had a sore throat that bad since. There's one that you get like every 10 years, I shouldn't say that. Hopefully never again. And I couldn't sing. I had to sing, I believe I had a G in that show, and I had to sing the G, got to sing the G. And I couldn't vocalize. Well, couldn't do the show. So we were double cast. I had a counterpart that could do the show for me. And so this was my Monday night show, and he did it. It's the only show I've ever given up or lost in since 1997. So 22 years, 23 years of doing shows, and killed me. I just hate losing shows. So Tuesday night was his show. Wednesday night I could vocalize. I could sing a G. Ma ma ma. I could do the note, but it hurt. I still had a sore throat. So I took 4 Advil and went and did the show. And he has like 3, 1, to 3 or 4 songs, and so, plenty of speaking role. It's less speaking, more operetta, more singing. But it's so I was very it's one of the leads. Was really into he's on stage a lot, and I did the show, and I couldn't feel much because I'd taken 4 Advil, and the but it didn't feel right on my voice. The evening, I got by, I got through it, and I had the personal pleasure of finishing the show, and it was an okay performance. I don't think it was my best night, and but people who were there, I think, enjoyed the show and felt like it was all right. Anyway, the next day, and the next day, and the next day, my voice had this bit of rasp in it, just a little bit of a at the bottom, and I could tell that that wasn't normal, and so and it didn't go away after a few weeks, and so I went to see an ENT, and he put a scope through as a flexible scope through my nose and down to see what was going on. And he said, "Oh my, I've never seen this before." That's a good feeling, right? You have bilateral nodules on the false chords. That is, a nodule on one side, a nodule on the other, in the same location, about the same distance from the true chords, from the vocal cord, the vocal folds. And I had 2 little dots, 2 little nodules. And he said, and also you've got some reflux going, and so that's not going to allow it to heal, because you've got this acid that's continuing to irritate these nodules on the false chords. And so I explained to him where I was feeling it, and that made sense to him based on where they were found on the chords. That is, my voice would go lower. It would encounter, and I don't exactly know how that worked, but I guess as it got lower and lower, the little nodules adjacent to the true chords were giving a scratchy tone or scratchy quality, contributing to that scratchiness to the false chords. I don't know exactly how. And anyway, he gave me medication to stop the reflux so that they'd have a chance to heal. Told me to go ahead and vocalize carefully, not be extreme in my vocalizations, go ahead and do vocal exercises, keep the intense pressure off, and stay moderate in volume and so forth. Don't push to extremes on the exercises. And so it may have been in 2009 that this happened. Anyway, it was probably about over a period of time it started feeling better. But I would say it was like 3 to 4 months that it took for, I was still feeling it, still wasn't feeling normal. And after about 5 or 6 months, it started feeling more normal. Then I had another opportunity to, well, I'll go into more detail about what happened next, but it did heal. And so, but during that period of time, you start feeling, well, first of all, you're let me say hi to a couple of people here. Andrin Nig, hi. Nice to have you here. Betty Jo, hello. Nice to have you here. Bandy Boo from Australia. Mandy, I hope the fires are diminishing down there. So sorry to hear about how much how many fires were active down there, and I hope that the situation is improving. I know the U.S. sent a team of firefighters down there to join with the Australians and probably other countries too that are trying to help. But so sorry to hear about your troubles down there. And yes, thank you. She says, love your videos. Thanks for all your help. Thank you, Bandy Boo. So, to continue this story a little bit, I want to come back to what happened when I wanted to get a follow-up with, and I was in Los Angeles, and I thought, well, it'd be a good idea to see one of the ENTs down here. I was in a week-long meeting and training meeting with Mr. Seth Riggs in his home, and which was awesome. But while I was there, I thought it would be well to go see one of the physicians that he worked with, just to check and see that things are okay. And but I was missing something very important that I needed when I went to see him, and I'll circle back to that in a minute. Okay, any of you have any of you had any damage to your vocal cords? Or the vocal folds is another word for it. We use cords and folds interchangeably. I don't see any of you made any comments about the vocal damage yet. Those of you who join us later, if you listen to this broadcast, let me know. Please share in the comments section if you've had damage to your vocal cords. Hi, Anna. Kokos, she says, hello. Have you any idea if a cyst can be healed with technique? I don't know for sure, Anna. So you happen to know any case? My doctor said it won't heal, but I don't really believe them, and I don't want surgery. So Anna, is the cyst... Okay, so first of all, stop, time out, full disclosure, I am not an MD. I am not an ear, nose, and throat doctor. I am not a rhinolaryngologist, an otorhinolaryngologist. I am not an expert in this field. And I'm not going to claim that what I tell you is the final say. In fact, referring back to my story, you'll note that the first thing that I did after I realized it wasn't resolving is I went to see the ear, nose, and throat doctor. Why? Because they have the equipment, or they should have the equipment, to be able to put a scope down there and look visually to see what is happening to your cord structure. Please, in every case, when you have a situation like this, as Anna has already intimated here, she has seen her doctor. This is an absolute must, and it's even if the news is bad, you want to know the truth about what's going on, because that was the anxiousness I felt. I felt anxious because I could tell something wasn't right, and I wanted to know what it was. It was harder not knowing than it was to find out what was wrong, because at least once you know if there's something wrong, that you know what it is and you begin to formulate options. And in this case, Anna has been recommended that she have surgery to remove the cyst. So Anna, is it a hard cyst, or is it is there fluid in the cyst? Is it a soft cyst? Is it a hard or soft? Because that, from my understanding, limited as it is, that makes a little bit of a difference. The same thing is true with nodules. If it's a hard nodule, it's more like a callus, and those are very, very difficult to have diminish over time. If it's a soft nodule, then there's possibility for rehabilitation without having to have surgery. So I'm thinking, Anna, if it's a soft nodule, perhaps there is opportunity for rehab. If it's a hard nodule, then The cyst is soft. You're a coach. I changed my technique to SLS a year ago. How long have you had the cyst, Anna? Rana? How long has it been present? Has it been there over a year? Bandy, backing up to what Bandy said about the fires. Fires are still going, but not as bad. We have had severe storms wreaking havoc along the East Coast. Oh my gosh, you guys are having a heck of a winter, huh? Or rather, a heck of a summer. So sorry to hear all that. Maddie Gyradios Gaming. What's up? Nice to have you here today. Bandy says, I have consistently sore throat, probably due to air quality here. Yeah. You know what? I've had that happen. We had fires up here last year. In fact, we were on alert to be evacuated, my home, and 2 blocks up, they were evacuated because the fire was right on our hillside here, and 3 homes were destroyed. No loss of life, fortunately, but there was smoke everywhere, and you kind of get, it dries it out. The smoke dries out the throat, and it was a little bit raw. So how to protect the vocal cords? We can talk about that. So I gargle with warm, salty water. Any tips? So Bandy, but just right off the bat, that's what I do. I do, and this was recommended by a physician assistant in an ENT office, and he said, put about a teaspoon of salt and it'd be like 12 ounces of water, something like that, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda in lukewarm water, and then use that to gargle with. And then I also do when I'm cold, when I have a illness and my sinuses are involved, then I'll do a neti pot nasal wash to wash out the sinuses, and use the same solution in that case also. So that was recommended to me by the physician or the physician assistant and their office, and it's worked pretty well for me. I feel like it's been a good solution. Let me just get caught up here on a couple of these comments, and then I want to get more into what are some more damage. We've talked now about a cyst, and so Bandy or Anna, I'd like to know if you know how the cyst got there. You mentioned a technique change. Do you feel like it was like vocal abuse through improper technique, or what your situation was? For me, I was abusing my voice, but I was singing sick. It wasn't necessarily my technique. It was a poor choice on my part to sing when I was sick. But Anna, because the cyst is soft, I would at least get a second opinion. If the cyst has been there for a year and you've been using correct technique, I'm kind of feeling like I'd get a second opinion. And just make sure. And if you could find a second opinion from a ENT doc who deals with singers, maybe that's already the case. But that's another thing that I want to stop right now and recommend. All of you, when you go see the ENT doctor, make sure they have a viewer that you can watch the procedure, and so you can see your vocal cords, and they can take a picture. The physician I saw didn't have the equipment to take a picture of what he was seeing, so I never saw it. And so when I went to get a second opinion, and called the doctor's office. He said, bring a picture of your first diagnosis so that I can compare it and see how things are looking. Well, I don't have he said, I said, I don't have an image. He says, and what limited information I'm going to give you is not going to be as helpful. So I ended up not going because I didn't have any way to show him what it looked like before all this started. And so make sure that when you go see your ENT, that they have a camera system where you can take a video, not just an image, still image. You want both. You want a video so that you can see the vocal cords working and while you vocalize, ah, and so they can take a video of it and a picture of it, a still picture, so that it will go into your file, so they have a record of it. So when you come back, they can look and compare. That was a mistake I made with my first examination. And I was so sad when I realized I walked out with nothing. I couldn't look at it myself. So when I'd set the appointment the next time with a different physician, I asked, do you have instruments that can not only see the vocal cords, but I can see them on the screen, and you can do video on it, and you can do a still image? Yes, we do. Okay. I think that's an absolute requirement. Otherwise, you're limited in your ability to get a second opinion, or just to go back there and have them have something on file and say, oh, this is what it looked like, and this is what it looks like today, and you are making real progress. My first physician couldn't do that. Makes me mad. I wish I had a record of it. I've talked about this several times, and I wish I could say, see, but I can't do that. Anyway, make sure they can take images. All right, so what are some other damage? What's some other damage that maybe has happened? So Anna said she has a cyst. It's a soft cyst. And, part of the damage is Bandy. They've got all these fires down in Australia. We had the same here in the western United States. A lot of mountain fires, a lot of burning in the mountains. And so the smoke would settle down the valley. And, yeah, you just kind of got a little raw. The voice got a little bit raw. So that's mild damage. It's not, I think you have to be careful, but it's not quite like some of these other things right on the vocal cords that are little spots that can, that are sitting right on the cord structure or adjacent to it, like mine was adjacent to the cord structure. All right, so we know a cyst. And a cyst is it's like a little bubble with fluid in it. And the cause is, I don't exactly know what the cause of a cyst is, but I'm going to guess it's similar to the cause or to the nodules, and that's vocal abuse of some sort. That's not necessarily singing, because there are people who abuse their voices that aren't singers. Have you ever heard a football coach talk after the game is over? Well, we had a great game today. The other team was awesome, but we were able to rally in the fourth quarter. Maybe he can't even talk. Why? Because he's been yelling for 2 hours. Oh my gosh. They're going to be so fortunate to get out of their career without permanent vocal damage. There's a lot of ways that people can damage their voices. Yelling, over-speaking, speaking too loud for long periods of time, failure to support using your lower, abdominal assistance here, so that takes some of that energy off of the neck and throat and voice and so forth, and has some help with airflow and so forth. That helps. School teachers who are third grade school or second grade or first grade, young kids, and they have to speak over the top of the kids all day long, have vocal issues. Cheerleaders, high school cheerleaders, college cheerleaders, junior high, with their yells, their voices end up damaged a little bit. And you can get nodules. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say a cyst is possible. But I don't know. Anna, did they tell you what they felt like what was the cause of your cyst? I'm just curious because I don't really know for sure that cysts are always caused by over singing or abuse of the singing voice. You maybe have been in conjunction with being ill or other ideology. So, okay, let's move on to a couple other comments here, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about. Let me just mention. So we got the cyst, we've got the nodules, we've got, and a nodule is like a little blister, I guess, kind of similar to the concept of a cyst. Depends on how. I'm curious how large the cyst was, Anna. The hemorrhage, a vocal hemorrhage, is something that happens to singers. You hear about that because some very high-profile singers have had hemorrhage. What is a hemorrhage? A hemorrhage is just within the vocal folds, within the vocal cords, there's tissue, there's muscle, and so the muscle is supplied with blood by little blood vessels, little tiny vessels, and if one of those little vessels ruptures and if it breaks, it will cause a bruising kind of effect. That's what happens when we get hit, a hard ball hits you in the arm and you get this bruise. Well, it's ruptured some blood vessels. In the case of the vocal hemorrhage, the blood vessel will externalize. You'll see it on the surface. You can see the little vessel, and sometimes there's a tiny bit of blood even on the vocal fold from that little ruptured blood vessel. That's a hemorrhage. Now, it's in essence a bruise, and so you've got a bruised vocal fold, and so immediately, a lot of times people will say, "Well, I was singing out full blast, and this is like in the second hour of the evening, and all of a sudden I felt kind of like something happened. Just felt this immediate change in my voice, and then the rest of the evening I was hoarse." That is more than likely a hemorrhage. Let me take a couple other comments. Hey, Devox, nice to have you here. Andrian, at least we're in the same club. She's commenting on, hold on a second. I've lost a couple comments here. And Andrin says, I've never had vocal fold damage so far, but sometimes my voice gets hoarse after a vocal workout. I'm not sure whether I'm working too hard or I'm actually too conscious with my voice. So, Andrin, it could be you're working a little bit too hard, and also maybe your technique isn't quite right, so there's some pulled chest involved in there, or both. So you want to moderate it so that when you're done practicing, well, you got to stop pulling chest. But let's assume that you're not pulling chest. It's just you're practicing too hard. You want to bring the volume, bring the loudness down. Be a little more relaxed. Don't push it so hard. And give yourself time to develop some strength, and then you can gradually increase the loudness. That will often solve that problem. Bandy says, same here, have to stop practice. Yeah, so sometimes we just go all out. We think it's like the gym. Push, 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 more and more weight, bigger, stronger. I'm going to build up this really massive vocal cord. That's not the way they work. They don't bulk up because you've been lifting heavy volume or heavy weight. That's not the way it works. It's not like an arm muscle or you can see your biceps get bigger. That's not the way it works. You really develop your vocal cords through not by pushing them to their limit. You don't. That's not the way you build and develop your cord structure. You coordinate them through continual exercise, but you're careful. You don't have to go extreme volumes, and you want to do it with correct technique so that you're bridging in the bridge. You're not pulling up the bottom and so forth. Anyway, moving on here. Andrin says same thing. She's got to practice less hard. Andrin says, I think we're singing in the throat. That's very possible. Jose, hi. Does compression help or hurt vocal cords? Friendly compression is really absolutely required. If we don't have friendly compression on the cords, then we don't, we usually are too light and airy and breathy. We've got to have the same kind of compression that you have when you speak. That's friendly compression. Overcompression can cause some, certainly tiredness, and could cause damage if it's overcompressed and strained. Let me see, take another comment here. Devox says, hey, I went to ENT twice because I thought I had damaged or nodules. Was relieved to hear there were no nodules. It was probably edema. Rest resolved it. All of you who have heard the word edema, it means swollen vocal cords. Devox says, singing loud or high notes with the high larynx is what I believed caused it. Yes, Evox, that will do it. All of us need to be aware that if we sing loud and we pull that chest voice higher and higher while we're singing loud, some people call that belting, that we can cause the vocal cords to swell up. And then your voice is you're gonna have a hard time. Rest resolved it, and that's what you have to do. But you got to change your technique, you guys. That if we just rest and then go back to doing what we were doing before, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. So we've got to learn how to mix and be in our head voices and not pull up the bottom. Evox says singing the loud notes with the high larynx is what caused it. Madigeritos, gaming. For those worrying about nodules, it can take years of abusing your voice to develop them. My dad's aunt was an opera singer for years, and she developed nodules recently, after easily 15 plus years. You know, it's a fact that all genres of singers, or singers from all genres, are at risk of getting nodules, and so it takes vigilance. And the pros are probably the most at risk because they are touring, they're performing regularly, and if you're not careful, you can shorten your career. So anybody who starts pulling chest and abusing the voice a little bit, who wants a long career, you've got to save your money. You got to save your money because your career won't be long. It'll be short. We all know, you've all read this before, that some years ago, Adele ruptured had a rupture, vocal cord rupture, had to have surgery. And then 2 or 3 or 4 years later, she had another rupture. And I think she had to have a second surgery. I don't know how she's doing. You guys probably have heard. But, gosh, you can't do that and have a long career. You just... So, I don't want to pick on you, Anna, but Well, let me see what your comment is here. Hey, George, nice to have you here. Came in on cell. Great to have you with us, George. Um, Anna says it was an edema before. Okay, swelling, turned into a cyst 5 months ago. Okay, and I got damaged before using SLS when I was pushing chest. Okay, after SLS, my voice sounds better and better, but I still haven't healed. Anna, 5 months. That's a tough one. I think I would, if you could go get a second opinion and see what they say, if it'll resolve. It may be one of those situations that, given where it's located, it's going to be different for every patient. But get a second opinion and see what they say. Find somebody that's kind of well known if you can. It's possible, I think, to rehabilitate many of these problems. I know for a fact that I had a friend who was a vocal teacher and taught speech level singing, but also was a lay minister, and so he did speaking all the time. So he'd be speaking all day, teaching, and frankly, when you're sitting down and you're not quite engaged, it's very throaty a lot of times, and he had a tendency to talk a lot, and he had a rupture. But I know this for a fact because I beheld it with my own eyes. It's one of those cases where that little blood vessel, through the rehabilitation process, disappeared back down into the vocal fold, which is what you call in medicine a case report. It's so unusual that you would write that up and report one case. Here's one case we know of where rehabilitation worked. But the rehabilitator was Seth Riggs, who rehabilitated post-surgically Stevie Wonder, and I think he's done a lot of. I know another gentleman, Andy, if you're listening, another gentleman from Europe who underwent rehab with Mr. Riggs, following nodules and so forth, and he's the kind of guy that could do it. Okay, so how does damage happen? Anna said that her technique, she was pulling chest, pushing chest voice. She got swollen cords, probably never completely went back down again, but would sing again with swollen cords and that repeatedly doing that. And that caused her vocal damage. And it will cause everyone vocal damage. That's what causes hemorrhages. That's what causes the nodules. And I'm going to guess now we could safely say, because Anna shared that with us, it causes cysts. I'm told that acid reflux, if it's persistent enough over time, can cause, basically blisters or cysts on the vocal folds, and it could be so damaging. So that's something we haven't talked about. One way vocal damage can occur is through reflux. There's two major kinds of reflux. That one is GERD, which is that gastroesophageal reflux, where you feel, many of you have probably felt this burning sensation. It hurts. It's so painful. And then it burns in your neck, and that's the GERD. There's another form of reflux called laryngopharyngeal reflux, LPR, and it's called the silent reflux. You don't know you have it. You have very little, if any, maybe no heartburn, but you wake up in the morning and your voice is pretty scratchy. It's scratchy throughout the day, and maybe you've got some mild kind of a little bit of aching down, at least that I'm talking about me. I feel that down in here. I don't know why it's not higher, but for some reason I can feel it radiating here. Maybe you have, maybe you know you have LPR, laryngeal, laropharyngeal reflux, and it's frustrating. You know, you're not supposed to eat. You know, should stop eating at 7 in the evening or so, or at least a couple hours before you have to go to bed. You want to prop your bed up so that you're sleeping on an incline. So so you're sleeping on not on a decline. So how do I do that? Let's see, like this. No, like yeah. So your head would be up here, and it's propped up so that any acid doesn't flow up into your vocal folds. I'm pretty sure that I have a lax duodenal ring or whatever that's called that is at the junction of the esophagus. I don't know. Maybe that's on the other end. It would be esophageal ring or something. Yeah, right. That's on the distal end of the stomach. So the superior end would be esophageal, some kind of a little sphincter there that's supposed to close up and not allow the acid to flow up. And I think mine is lax, and that's why I have reflux, and I have to watch it pretty carefully. You have to moderate your eating. You don't want to have hot, spicy stuff, which is unfortunate because that's what I love. You're not supposed to have citrus, tomatoes. I guess steaks are bad. Mint tends to relax that area of the top of the stomach so that and chocolate tends to relax that so that you get this stuff coming up. It's such a sad life. It's worse. It's a sad life of the voice, and so we got to be careful. I know a gentleman who had it burned the cord structure pretty severely, and he was left with what sounds like swollen cords all the time. It's just a little bit of a fuzzy, a little bit of a raspy feeling and sound, and that's based on his encounter with reflux. So abuse of the voice is probably the main cause of the hemorrhages, of the cysts, of the nodules, and that is even, and those things can be so severe that the only way to get them corrected is by surgery. With reflux, you can control a lot of that with medication, that's what I do. Although I don't like taking medicines, so I usually go off of it for a while and then go back on when I have a show coming up or something. I know it's probably not the best idea, but I hate medications. But so reflux can be controlled, acid can be controlled through medications. The other things you really have to be careful of your technique, because poor vocal technique will cause vocal damage. Poor technique will cause vocal damage, and it could mean surgery. Now, surgery is not bad in and of itself, but let me tell you, there's no routine surgery. No matter what, if someone uses the word routine surgery, that's when something bad happens. There's no routine surgery. So you don't want, I want to avoid surgery at all costs, and I worked in the operating room for 25 years. I know surgery, and I don't want surgery because sometimes things happen out of the control of anyone, it seems, and things go bad. even with the very best of surgeons, and more often with the worst of surgeons. But even the very best have things that happen that seem to be out of their control. And anyway, you don't want surgery. I don't want surgery. It's never quite as good as it was before, you know, before surgery. It's good, but not quite pristine like your voices are, when you're in good health and strength. So let's look. You've got to get your technique so that you're not pulling chest. That's really probably one of the main culprits. You want to be getting into your mixed voice, into your head voice. But if you're yelling it or belting it, if you're over singing, you're singing too hard, or if you're over speaking all day, or if you've got a career that it requires you to speak, requires you to yell, like coaching and some of these we've already mentioned. It's hard to be a singer with that kind of vocal abuse. And if you're a professional, then you've got to pace yourself. You have to number one, you have to have good technique. Otherwise, your career will be short. If you're out there abusing, you don't. Now, let's talk about substance abuse. If you're using drugs, if you're using tobacco, marijuana, all those things that tend to, smoke the cords. Somebody said, "Have you ever seen Some asked this other teacher, well, what's smoking impact of smoking? So have you ever seen a piece of beef jerky? It's hung in a smokehouse, and they smoke that beef. Smoke passes, around it and through it all, and that's what you're doing to your vocal cords. Anyway, I don't recommend it. I think I've only had one student who smoked, and I almost just said, it's whatever I do, it's not going to really help because your vocal cords are going to be damaged. I never did say that, but that's what I was thinking. Why would you smoke and be a singer? Why would you smoke anyway? Because the risk possibilities of cancer, but smoke and sing. So alcohol is not the best for the vocal cords. The alcohol itself, I guess, is abusive. The caffeine in coffee and caffeine in soft drinks dehydrate the body, and so you lose vocal cord hydration, and that can cause a dry and vocal fold and vocal cord and cause some scratchiness and so forth. There are, of course, drugs will destroy the voice and your life. And so, you just got to live a healthy life if you want to have a healthy voice all of your life. And so you want to avoid those substances at all costs. What to do? Yeah, so if you have vocal damage, then, you can follow the lead here of Anna. You go see your doctor and have them look at it and get a diagnosis. At least you know what's going on at that point. And all right, so I need to get caught up here a little bit on this comment board. Okay, so Dara Monday. Hi, Dara. Hi, Chuck. I wonder if you remember me. I do remember your name. I sent you my vocal sample, and you were very concerned about the separation of my voice. And I mentioned to you about vocal damage due to acid reflux. Okay. I'm sorry your name is familiar to me, Dara, but I've listened to thousands of recordings, and I'm sorry I'm not pulling up the exact memory bank. I couldn't tolerate PPI meds since it gave me really bad side effects. So I'm currently doing complete lifestyle change. My voice has gotten better, but it's not back to its original condition. Good luck, Dara. It's not an easy thing, but it's certainly worth it, I think, to have your voice. Nuno, hi. He says, hi, Chuck. Sometimes from time to time, I feel like the left side of my neck, kind of on the left vocal fold, I feel something in the left side, kind of on the left vocal fold, but it doesn't hurt by any means, and it disappears. Any ideas on this? Thanks. Nuno, does it affect your singing? Thanks from Andrin. Thank you. Jack. Hey, Jack. Jack Jackley. Nice to have you here today. Loai, why babies cry so hard for a long time and never lose the voice? It's because they're doing it right. The only time they lose their voice when they're crying is if they're crying and they also have sore throats. They're sick. If they're sick and they're crying, you've heard a hoarse baby. I have. Well, my wife and I have had 8 babies. We have 8 children. No babies right now, but grandbabies. And if a child gets sick, has a fever and a cough and so forth, and they're crying, you can hear them lose their voice. But a healthy baby doesn't lose their voice because they're crying right. You know, it's they're not pulling up chest voice. They're in their mix and head voice when they're crying. So they're not pulling up the bottom. That vocal fold thins right out. Of course, there's not much there, is there? They're tiny little vocal cords. But basically, they're singing with that nay, nay, nay kind of feeling. Nay, 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 nay. So there's not abuse in it. It's great. It's really great. You start to analyze that. You can really hear that power in them. It's amazing. I wonder how old we are when we lose that and start pulling chest. Oh, sorry. Low say. Let me see. Oh no, Bandy's making a comment on back to low IA. What was that comment? I'm losing it. Oh well, here we go. Oh, moving on. Andrin says, I actually do have experience with SLS for some years, and I'm able to bridge. Cool. Is pulled chest even possible with bridging? If you're truly bridging and mixing in that bridge, it's if you spread a vowel, it will throw you out of your mix. But no, your mix is going to really protect your voice. It's only if you make them, if you err too much in an evening and get extravagant and ends up being a high larynx and pulling, a high larynx. You're in the area of the bridge, but you're pulling or you're spreading the vowel. And so you can be a little extravagant there and it will start to do some damage. Yeah. So you have to be vigilant on your technique. We all do. Hi, Roxanne. Nice to have you here. Wait, so you say that belting is bad. Roxana, there are probably 50 definitions of belt. So if you're pulling your chest voice and belting up the bottom, yes, it is bad. But the concept here is that you're pulling up the bottom. You're pulling up the chest voice and kind of yelling it up higher in your head. It is damage. It will damage the voice. Dara says, mixed helped me sing again. Though the froggy sound still comes out, my voice is at the mercy of what I eat. Yeah. SLS Betty Joe is speech level singing. Oh, somebody got that. Thank you, Andrin. Roxana Shield, belting is not bad for the voice if you belt healthily. That's always the problem, isn't it? And one person can belt healthily and one person can belt unhealthily, and they don't know the difference. But they both, they get the vocal damage. So MG says, that's Maggie Gyrados Gaming. I'm just going to say MG. Excessive yelling and screaming or unhealthy belting, pulling lots of chest is bad for your voice. Agreed. Daniel, hi. Sorry for can't speak English. Well, it's nice to have you here. Violet Fraser, hi. I teach vocals, and after a few hours, I get hoarse, even though I try to be careful with my technique. For a few days, I even had a bit of pain in my neck in the middle. Yeah, Violet, we really have to be vigilant, don't we? It's easy to kind of get lazy, for me, to kind of like relax everything, and now it's all just right here. And if I just sit up and engage my core, and engage my diaphragm and so forth, I project better, and I know I'm speaking healthy, more healthy. Gosh, I got a student coming in. 4 minutes. How much do I have here? All right. So we're talking now a little bit about the protection of the voice. We've talked about what you can do on reflux. You got to eat right. You have to stop eating a couple hours before you go to bed. Prop yourself up at night, and see a doctor. Obviously, see your doctor and get some medications going. Once you get that going, then you can buy over-the-counter things to replace what they've prescribed to you. But that's what I do, and it helps. Don't sing when you're sick, ladies and gentlemen. Don't sing when you're sick. If you have a gig, cancel the gig. If you have a show, you're understudy to do it. But don't sing when you're sick, especially if you're really sick. Sore throats while you're singing will cause vocal damage. Happened to me. All right, so let me wrap this up quickly, and then we've got to end. This has been really great conversation. It's gone now, and I'm not sure it actually could damage something. Violet says, continuing, I did damage my vocal folds. If I did damage my vocal folds, would I still be feeling the pain, or the fact that it's gone could mean probably everything is fine? Yeah, Violet, if you're able to vocalize easily and there's no interruption, and so that's one of the things I wanted to say. If there's a cyst, if there's a hemorrhage, if there is any bit of nodule on the cords, and a lot of times the nodules are on both sides. They're bilateral, and when the vocal cords come together, there's a spot in the voice that kicks. It won't allow you to vocalize. So there'll be little spots where the voice cuts out. It's because the vocal cords it's like they can't. If they're doing this together, it's like this spot right here. It won't. If that was a nodule on each side, the cords can't come together. So there's going to be a little air leak there, and the tone's going to cut out. And that's when you know you got to go see the doctor. And that might be a nodule. It might be a bruise on the vocal fold, that hemorrhage. The vocal fold, it's like you have a bruise on your calf or on your thigh. You won't, if it's sore, you don't use it, and the vocal folds won't respond. They'll try and avoid use on the bruise. And so you can tell something's wrong. Go see your doctor, please. And the sooner the better. You've got to get a plan in place to take care of it. Roxana says, singing was the reason for me to stop smoking. Yeah, me too. My parents smoked, and I'm just glad I never had that issue. But if you're going to sing and you want to have your voice all your life, of course there's exceptions to the rule, but they usually die. Gotta go to sleep. Almost midnight here in Europe. Hey, thanks, Andrin. Thanks for all the advice, and have a great day. Thank you. Monica, hi. Never smoked and drunk. So, it's just some healthy life choices do make a difference in the voice. Matt says, what's the number one thing to do to avoid vocal damage? Well, aside from all those substances and so forth, good vocal technique. So you want to learn how to bridge so that you're not pulling up the chest voice so high. That means that when you get to the bridge, you start to mix the chest voice with the head voice, and that takes you up into head voice without straining stress, without damage to the voice. If you don't know how to do that, go in the description below is the vocal type. Get your free vocal, or get your vocal type. It's a free PDF with links to a vocal test, links to videos about your vocal types, and exercises you can do for your vocal type. It's going to help you learn how to bridge. Check it out in the comment section below this video. Folks, I'm sorry, I've got to end this. My student, oh, I don't see her here. Let me see if I can grab a couple more of these. There's a window right there, and so I can see if she parks her car, and she's not there yet. So that's it, Matt. Get your vocal technique down correctly, and it will make a huge, it's like a huge insurance policy on avoiding vocal damage. Also, I wouldn't sing metal. I wouldn't sing metal. How many hours a day do you suggest to practice singing, to improve singing and prevent vocal damage? You know, I wouldn't practice more than an hour a day. You might want to divide that up, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. It's correct practice rather than how long you practice. And the other answer is, if you perform and your gig is 2 hours, then you want to practice that gig. So you want to put a couple hours in. So you practice as long as you're performing. But if you're not regularly performing, I would say an hour is awesome. And I don't think you need to do more than that. But correct practice is what's important. And you don't want to overdo it with loudness and so forth. Because I'm used to singing all day long, and notice my speaking voice is getting more brassy. Yeah, so you want to moderate that. You don't need a lot of time practicing if you're not performing all the time. Monica says, 20 years I had almost 10 sore throats and colds per year. I now think I have a better immune system and I can sing much better. These years of chronic sore throats could have damaged my voice. Oh, she's here. Got it on, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing, and this is live number 166. Remember, you can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.